It's very safe, like a very small community type city.
I feel very safe walking around.
This is a safe place to live.
The reason that we're so safe is that we're also, I believe, the second or third most capital efficient city.
Substance abuse issues.
Back in the early 80s, it was pretty bad. And the cops were bad too. But all the cops, I love every one of them. And the Latinos, I love the most.
Welcome to New Hampshire, where the motto is live free or die, and as soon as I cross the border, you're going to see a lot of retail and commercial big box stores start to pop up. As New Hampshire is one of the only states with no state sales tax and no state income tax. But apart from being a place that many Bostonians drive up to buy electronics or other expensive goods tax-free, New Hampshire actually just passed Maine to become the safest state in the nation, with an overall crime rate less than half the national average. And with a violent crime rate 58% below the national average, Nashua, the city that I'm now entering, is actually the safest city with a population over 50,000 residents in the United States. Now,
I'm asking for a reconsideration judgment on my eviction case. The manager, Pamela White, has had my mail and withheld the letter from the court stating the date for my final hearing. A chance encounter with the court's housing advocate was the only reason I was able to at least appear in court that date. My key witness was supposed to be their witness based on the initial allegations. However, when Pamela found out that I had talked to Caleb, the heating guy, on January 16th, and he told us both he had nothing to do with it, she obtained counsel and changed the verbiage of her allegations to now exclude Caleb's involvement, where now there was not any witness as to smelling marijuana. I spoke with Caleb on April 23rd at 303-505-8534 and got his mailing info. Caleb agreed to have a subpoena sent out to him once I got the court date to stand as my witness. Pamela Weiss had all of the mail sent to tenants on the 4th floor, although we have our own separate boxes in front of our building. She never gave me a chance to showcase my evidence, as she withheld my mail, only to then put it underneath my door after the final hearing was over, where it had already been opened and resealed. My next-door neighbor witnessed her put the letter underneath my door that morning after the hearing was over, and it is also on camera. I'll be contacting authorities on this matter separately. Furthermore, I am also obtaining counsel on this matter, as I have had federal offenses committed against me to prevent justice, which is obstruction. There is absolutely no evidence of drug usage nor my behaviors affecting anyone. The alleged witnesses were not even required to testify, so I was prevented my opportunity to cross-examine. The verbiage behind the attorney's legal eviction notice was deliberately changed as to have no witness state they smelled marijuana, nor was there any witness stated as to finding an alleged meth pipe, so no statements were made. I was told by the court's housing advocate that my recorded conversation, which both parties consented would be evidence to be heard in court. However, I was prevented the opportunity to support my case by having it heard. I did not feel I needed counsel, as the entire premise of the eviction is completely fraudulent, but somehow sufficed to justify an eviction, although no evidence was shown against me. I also have drug tests that I have deliberately requested from my doctor's office showing that I'm innocent of the drug allegations. This eviction was retaliatory in nature, as I was threatened by Pamela White with an eviction because I was trying to prevent her from illegally evicting Walter Lemire the month before. Walter was evicted by Pamela White with no evidence. He died less than 2 weeks after she gave him 5 days to leave, as he was left hopeless, handicapped, and homeless. How does a tenant protect themselves against the dishonesty of the landlord? They need compelling evidence, and Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelter provided none. I'm dealing with extreme and outrageous conduct, which is breaking the implied covenant of habitability. I'm disheartened by the decision because I have an immense amount of irrefutable evidence of retaliation, perjury, deception, slander, contempt, libel, intentional infliction of emotional and physical distress, defamation of character, and so on. The Nashua Soup Kitchen, in particular, Pamela White, provided one page of text messages between an unknown party and another party named Olga, who was not even in court. The only person who allegedly spelled marijuana from somewhere at some time was a person named Brian, whom I've never met, shown in their exhibit, but he too was not in court, as he was in Valley Street himself. A grainy image of broken glass shown on a picture of a text was what provided enough proof to evict me on drug usage of mine, which allegedly affected others, although no complaints have ever been made against me by any of my neighbors. It cannot be unnoticed that my eviction will affect the stability of my entire future, as I will be stripped of my Section 8 voucher, potentially for life, and left with an eviction on my record for drug usage, which no landlord would rent to me. I applied with Pamela White and Jane Goodman to reconsider right away, offering a drug test, and I was denied. However, amongst my surmountable and irrefutably compelling evidence, I have drug tests that I have done with my blood work almost bi-weekly for the last 5 months due to testing for my debilitating thyroid disease and early stages of kidney failure that I suffer from, showing no drug usage as per the accusations unjustifiably stating otherwise. I don't need to prove my innocence. They need to provide compelling evidence to prove their claims, whereas I could show to the contrary overwhelming evidence that they have conspired to deceive court and housing officials in this case, to unabashedly attempt to take away my well-being and stability with 100% fraudulent, falsified, and illegal actions which are insidious and inhumane, with criminal layers encompassing the entire conspiracy between Pamela and employees at the shelter. Lastly, do you not find it conspicuous that the first 2 eviction notices included the heating guy, but once they obtained counsel, no witness was shown to allegedly smell marijuana in my room? I'm requesting a fair hearing where I can receive my mail and subpoena my witness. The judge denied that motion. I also put in a motion that day on the 9th with a notice of intent to appeal to the Supreme Court. So if Judge Amy Manchester was not willing to reconsider her decision in allowing my eviction to take place, then I was going to go to the highest law of the land and go over her head and have her removed from her seat. Unfortunately, as you heard, with my mail in the first place, Pamela White withheld my mail from the court stating the date for my final hearing. They also withheld my mail from the Supreme Court, so I was not able to file a claim in time. Nashua, New Hampshire prides itself in its support for the homeless community. And in a lot of senses, they do a great job. Here's a news article from November 23rd, 2022, where they're writing about how the Nashua Soup Kitchen Shelter received a grant for $1.25 million from Jeff Bezos' fund. And that was just before I moved into my apartment through the Nashua Soup Kitchen Shelter. And here we have a great employee. There's a lot of good work that takes place here, but don't get me wrong, at the highest levels of employment here, the corruption is through the roof. And I'll tell you, here's another article about how National Soup Kitchen Shelter is helping on the unhoused population. Here's an article referencing the grant again. And this building here shown in the picture is the main shelter building on 35 Spring Street, right across from the courthouse, right across from the post office. The first 3 floors are for the shelter. The 4th floor are newly renovated studio apartments. There's 11 of them. I was fortunate enough to apply and receive the voucher for the apartment on the 4th floor there. You see here, they mention that the 4th floor consists of 11 studio apartments. It says that we're sheltering about 108 people every night outside the apartments. Olga Cruz is quoted as saying clients are required to do job searches, meet with case manager to do an assessment. Says Olga Cruz, Director of Housing Services. We help them with IDs, birth certificates, resumes, whatever they need to make some progress and be able to move out of the shelter. Well, I'll tell you this. I threatened a class action lawsuit against Olga in 2022 when she refused to meet with me over a staff member who kicked me out of the shelter for no reason. And Olga refused to meet with me. But due to circumstances that followed, when I was kicked out of the shelter, I ended up gaining a great friendship with a woman that I proceeded to take care of for the 6 months leading up to her passing. So I told Olga that it was a blessing in disguise what happened with that situation, so they never came to fruition. Client services, it says, while low barrier, the regular shelter's dry shelter, clients sign an agreement saying that they will not use substances while in the shelter. However, if someone does not show up under the influence, they are not turned away. Instead, they will be asked to eat, take a shower, and then go to bed. We have people in recovery, and it's hard to stay in recovery if you have somebody actively using that you're sharing space with, we said. And here's a quote from the Director of Client Services, Pamela White. We do the winter shelter overnight, so they sign up at 6 o'clock p.m. It's first come, first served, said Pamela White, Director of Client Services. We gave up our flex room, our meeting room, so there's mats on the floors, and there are a few people that are more handicapped or have a walker that get caught. And here's Pamela White's information, her email address and her phone number. I recommend that you guys give her a call and talk to her about what I'm about to show you here, where I was illegally and criminally evicted. Now, the month before I was evicted, my neighbor and friend Walter, who was evicted wrongfully the month before, I tried standing up for it. And Walter was an elderly man. He had one arm, he had sight in one eye. He was very, physically in rough shape. Pam kicked him out, gave him 5 days to leave with a false allegation saying he was smoking in the room when he wasn't. I tried having Walter exercise his rights as a tenant. He was broken by this. We had just moved in. After waiting 10 months, he lost his security deposit, his first, last all that. And Pamela refused to meet with him, refused to meet with us and have a face-to-face discussion. I told her what you're doing is highly illegal because only a judge can remove somebody from a dwelling in the state. She proceeded to say, Kane, if you want to keep going down this road, Walter, you can be next. And sure enough, this is what I received 3 weeks later underneath my door, December 11th, 2023, where that day Pamela White, who was the oversighting manager for these apartments, a landlord of sorts, she did a room inspection in my room that day. She did an apartment inspection for everybody. And for the 10, 15 minutes that she was in my room, she mentioned nothing, no problems, nothing of concern. However, later on that night, she slipped this underneath my door. Dear Mr. Bloomfield, this is a notice of eviction of the apartment at 35 Spring Street, Nashua, apartment 405, because you have violated police by illegal drug use on the premises. On Friday, December 8th, staff was notified from the company that was repairing heat. Quote, the apartment had a strong odor of marijuana on December 9th. The shelter staff notified us that there was a broken meth pipe that staff had to clean from the dryer. After you did your laundry on the first floor, you'll need to vacate the apartment by 4 p.m. on December 18th, 2023 for violating the conditions of the lease. Signed, Pamela White, and co-signed by Jane Goodman. So they're claiming here that on Friday the 8th of December, a heating guy told staff, hey, look, this guy's room had a really strong odor of marijuana. Now, the same employee was involved in both these situations. His name was Matt. And Matt escorted the heating guy upstairs for some reason that day and stood outside of my room as the heating guy came in and adjusted my thermostat for about 30 seconds and then left. And that was the end of it. And then the next day when I did my laundry for the first time in that shelter, I went downstairs and Matt was there. I saw that the lights were off and the guests were sleeping. So I said, look, I'll do my laundry another day. It's not a big deal. He's like, no, it's fine. You can do it. I'm like, look, I really don't need to do it today. He's like, look, if you do it right now, you'll have plenty of time. Just don't make sure it's not too late. So he's adamant that I did my laundry that night, that they allegedly found a meth pipe as well. And they also followed up with another letter because I did not leave. I knew that this was completely fraudulent and illegal and criminal. So I stayed my grounds, and they sent another letter on December 28th. It says the same verbiage on the first paragraph here, but it's now declaring that the decision has been made through housing in Nashua Soup Kitchen Shelter that you will need to vacate the apartment and turn in the keys by January 8th, 2024 for violating the conditions of the lease. We will have the sheriff's office escort you off the premises, and you could lose all your belongings. So they're now saying that the housing is involved. Come to find out, when I contacted housing, they were not notified of this at all, so that was a lie as well. So they never thought that I would have a second chance encounter to speak with Caleb, the heating guy, on January 16th, 2024, and January 17th, 2024. On January 16th, I showed him the letter. I said, look, they're accusing you of this. Like, what's going on? He told me that this was the first time he had heard of it. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't smell anything, and he was really thrown off by this. And he had a discussion with Pam that same day. Pam saw him and asked him, hey, did Keen say anything about the weed? Because she had a guilty conscience, didn't want me catching on to anything. And he said, yeah, I told him I didn't smell anything. I don't know what's going on. And in fact, here's the conversation.
He mentioned it to me, and I said I didn't smell anything. I don't know what's going on. Yes, sir. Yes. What did she say? I can't remember what she said. She basically, you say something about the pot. Yeah. I was like, yeah, you mentioned it. I said I didn't smell anything. Yeah. That was kind of it. I showed you the letter. Yeah, I have been having a so. Yeah, I how would I be able to contact you, like, if I do need that? Like, you get a hold of FBI? FPS? Okay, yeah, sorry.
So I wanted to let him know that I was recording that as well. So sorry, I proceeded to get this confirmation.
They're trying to see stuff about finding things to walk down the way. But I just wanted to tell you, I did just report that when I had it, just for my own, like, mention, when I didn't see if she talked about, that. Okay, so I just wanted to.
So I got confirmation from him to record the conversation because I knew I needed protection. I knew that they were up to no good. In fact, I'm the one that brought this into court. Now, I filed what's called a 540A petition where I declared that Pamela White and Jane Goodman have signed off on 2 separate illegal eviction notices for based on unsubstantiated accusations with threats and involvement of law enforcement officials. They are attempting to supersede court procedures that are standard and necessary for a lawful eviction process. And the judge gave me a court date, agreed that, look, there's something funny going on here. I need to see what's going on with this. And they gave me a court date. Now, you heard Caleb say when Pam found out that he talked to me, what she wants to know if he had talked to me. He told him or told her the truth. I didn't smell anything. I don't know what's going on. So she knew she had a problem, and she proceeded to then get an attorney on that day, the January 16th, the day that she talked to Caleb, where Smith, Weiss, Shepard, and Kanakis are representing them. And now that Caleb told her straight out, I'm not going along with this, she wants to now change the verbiage of her allegations where it just says, the actual behavior is use of the illegal drug uses on the premises. A strong odor of marijuana has been detected at from Kane Bloomfield's apartment. A broken meth pipe was located in the dryer after Kane Bloomfield did his laundry. Despite being notified of his illegal activity, Mr. Bloomfield has not stopped the use of illegal drug use on the premises. The use of illegal drug uses on the premises, including marijuana and meth, adversely affect the health and safety of other tenants in the building. So they're saying that my drug usage is just so over the top. They were telling me I won't stop. And these are all lies, saying that I'm affecting other people in the building. Absolute nonsense. The entire premise of this allegation is just so over the top. I'll just show you, an example of the laundry here. This is the laundry room downstairs. There's, several washers and dryers that all the staff uses and all the guests use. There are covers on these vents that prevent anything from falling through, like meth pipes. There's just laundry that on a daily basis is gathered and needs to get washed. Here's the protective covering that you see. Unless it's small enough to go in between those little squares there, it's not getting in there. This is just a typical day with, this is the amount of laundry that's shown, but they think that they can determine whose lint is whose. And the funny thing is, after this eviction had already started getting rolling, I was doing my laundry one night and I found a $5 bill in this dryer. And I was with my girlfriend at the time, and I told her that $5 is a lot of money for someone that's homeless, and I wanted to see if I could get it back to whose ownership it was. And I went over to the staff member and asked, hey, look, I found a $5 bill. Is there any way that we can figure out whose this is to get it back to him? The staff said, no, there's no way. There's no way to figure out whose it is, So how were you able to determine that a broken meth pipe in one of the dryer vents was mine? So I actually had a chance to speak with Matt, the employee who was involved in both of these allegations. I was doing my laundry one night, and I saw that he was following me into the laundry room, and this is the conversation that I had with Matt.
And you weren't the one that said they found. No, you don't know who it was? No, I was not here. That's something that was on. No, I know you were here. You were here that night. I wasn't here when the incident got put. Well, I know for a fact that I didn't tell you why other people were because I don't even see how it could be found. It's completely covered. So it's impossible. Impossible. Yeah. I didn't do it. I didn't say it. Whoever did it,
that right there negates the accusation in itself, because nothing can fit through those Monty covers to fall into the fact.
So bring it up with them. Absolutely, man. Like, if that's the case, and that's the truth of the matter, then
Or you did say you smelled.
absolutely.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna lie.
But you said you smelled it, but you didn't say anything, right?
What?
You said you smelled it, but you didn't say anything.
I got no reason to lie to you. I'm sitting there telling you that I smelled it.
I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna find out within the next 5 days whether you're lying or not. So I take care of
I was telling you what
that. I was just thinking if you had, I mean.
I do tell as a man, I do not tell my bosses that I
So
smoke weed.
you had no involvement in
I
this
did not.
process of
That's
the
not
eviction
how
at
I
all.
do. I do not tell them anything.
And you don't know. And you don't know.
It was probably somebody else that I talked to like that.
I'll tell you this. There's people that were down here that the only two people were doing was that Rosie said she didn't do it.
Yeah, but it had to have been another day or something.
I know what
I'm
it
not going to sit here. I'll do a little back. I'm sitting here, like you said, as a man, looking you in your face. I'm telling you,
I hope you tell me the truth.
I got no reason to lie to you. You did nothing. You're not even on my radar in my life.
Before I didn't even know your name or anything to you.
Exactly. And I think I'm the one that was like, oh yeah, you want me that.
Yeah,
Just as long as it doesn't get done late or something. I said.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. But because you and Rosa,
I talk with co-workers and maybe it was somebody else that worked with me. I just don't say nothing about it. If I did, I would say I'd tell you.
you understand though, you are employed by the shelter, right? And you and everybody else that works should have absolutely no concern about what goes on that fourth floor.
Okay, then, Jane's the one who told me to go upstairs with the heater guy, and to knock on doors and to find whatever else. To her about the heat. That's why I was up there. So it's kind of hard to have no involvement whatsoever.
Aside from
when you guys come down here and do your laundry, we have to have involvement.
I'm saying involvement in the sense where you're looking to
Yeah,
discipline us or
I would never even think that I could try to discipline you or think that I could try to do this. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and he went on to say, he had nothing to hide. He didn't mind being recorded. So here we have Matt, the employee, saying that he absolutely smelled weed in my room that day. And we have the heating guy saying, I didn't smell anything. I don't know what's going on, same thing. But they're saying the heating guy said that he smelled weed. So it looks like they didn't want Matt to be involved in both allegations because it would look pretty bad for an eviction based on two staff's allegations. So they put it on the heating guy, thinking I would never have a chance to interact with him to get the truth. Unfortunately, that wasn't meant to be. That wasn't meant to be for them. And I did get a chance to speak with him and get the truth out. And, my apartment was something that I put my heart and soul into. I had an empty apartment, and I moved in and made this place my humble, happy abode. And I cherished the short period of time that I had there, although it was filled with, animosity throughout the time because all of the shelter staff, were acting, passive aggressively with me and my girlfriend throughout this time and whatnot. And unfortunately, I no longer reside in this beautiful apartment that I made my home. And I now reside in a tent. In fact, this was my site prior to where I moved to now, where I was behind the library. And it just so happens that the Nashua Scoop posted this picture of a tent site that was just down the way from where I was in those pictures, where it says current state downtown Nashua. See hundreds of people have liked it, almost 1,000 comments, and those comments are, both positive and negative. you know. But nonetheless, I think it's important that the 32,000 members of the Nashua Scoop know the truth about the homelessness situation in this city, because it is absolutely heartbreaking. If people knew the truth, the community would be outraged and demand that people be held accountable. Um, you know, first of all, this was a private residence on the fourth floor. Private residence, separate from the shelter, so it's a little bit a bit of a quagmire that I'm being evicted based on allegations from staff members, even though staff didn't apply to me. They weren't my staff. I wasn't a guest in the shelter. I had an apartment of my own. So I actually wrote a message to an attorney that my friend had made me privy to. He is based out of Rhode Island. He never responded to me. Just so you know where I'm at with things, I just want to read you what I wrote to him. Tim, a neighbor of mine saw you on the news tonight and informed me that you might just very well be the exact attorney that I'm looking for to help me with my current eviction case. I want to tell you first off, I admire your dedication to being an incredible advocate for the homeless. It is commendable what you've done in such a short period of time in your early stages of your legal career. Early this evening, I was literally just telling that same neighbor how I really need an attorney that matches my level of enthusiasm for justice amongst the homeless community in my city and every other city. I say that in the sense that I believe I have a truly groundbreaking and monumental case which has so much potential to put a spotlight on the current problems with the process in which eviction cases are handled. I intend on changing the legal landscape on a permanent level across the board when it comes to eviction cases. I've been victim of what I can only imagine to be one of the most egregious illegal eviction cases in my city and likely elsewhere. This eviction is retaliatory in nature and has consumed my life since I got the first notice of eviction back in December of last year. I want to preface this by saying that I live in Nashua, New Hampshire, which has been declared the #1 safest and happiest city in America. With that said, I've recently got the judge's ruling on my eviction case, in which was unfortunately not in my favor. I put in my notice of intent to appeal to the Supreme Court as I've been victimized on a mind-blowing scale throughout the entire process. I have also put in a motion to reconsider judgment to allow the judge to think over poor and wrong decisions to allow my eviction to take place. Tim, I've always been someone that knew I would have potential to make great changes for society, and I think that with your help we can both actually make that happen. I'm going to send you what I wrote on my reconsideration of judgment as I wait for a decision on that. Thus far, I have not obtained counsel as I am very well versed in law myself. Please take a look at what I'm showing you here, because if you are inclined to see more, I have the entire case built myself, which I'd be glad to show you and open up to you more. I read the motion to reconsider judgment. She denied that. I never was able to get my motion to appeal to the Supreme Court because I never received my mail from that. Pamela White took control over our mail when this eviction started taking place. Before, we had no issues getting our mail in our mailboxes from the post office, which is literally right across the street. You could just throw a rock right at it. It's right there. But Pamela did not get an access key for the post office workers to get into the back of our post office, so that way she was able to subvert our mail to go all directly to her, where she was able to have control and pass out our mail individually to us. She withheld my letter from the court, stating the date for my final hearing, hoping that I would not show up. I would be a no-show and be guilty of the allegations that they made. I'm just a drug addict that didn't really have a witness and wasn't brave enough to show up in court, and they would win the case hands down. But that wasn't meant to be. This is bigger than me, because there are countless other people who have stories just the same as mine. People that I'm very close with, all my close friends have similar stories. I'm not exaggerating in any way. But that day of my court hearing, I had no notice of it, no awareness, but I just happened to run into my friend Ernie, who has a dog named Max that I love, giant German Shepherd. So I ran over to him and he said, "Yeah, go ahead and take Max for a walk. Let him go pee." So I did that, and I proceeded to walk past a large area of grass with area where I usually would have brought him to go to the bathroom. For some reason that day, I was led across the street to the courthouse lawn, where I ran into the legal aid advocate attorney that was working with me on my case and was very well aware of the criminal elements that were within my case. And I told him, "Mike, I'm freaking out. I'm like, I don't have my mail, and I'm trying to subpoena my witness. What's going on?" And he said, "Ken, I'm pretty sure I saw your name on the docket today." I was like, "Wait, you're pretty sure? Are you sure?" Like, he's like, "I'm pretty sure I saw your name on the docket." And so I said, "All right." I look at my watch, and I'm like, "Look, all right, tell the judge if I'm late. I'm gonna be there. I just have to give my buddy his dog back. I have to change my shirt. It sucks I don't have anything prepared, but I will be there." So in my heart, I always knew that the issue with the mail was a potential way for them to get me to not show up in court or not able to subpoena witnesses, but I didn't want that to be the case. That was something that was so far stretched. Committing federal offenses was something that I did not think they would do, but I went up to my room that day nonetheless with my friend Chris, and I changed my shirt, and I was just telling him, look, I really hope that I don't have court today, because if I do, that means that they did the worst thing possible that I can imagine. They committed federal offenses, and so he stayed in my room, and I went to court that day, unprepared, but showed up nonetheless. And before I walked into the courtroom, I see on the bench the attorney for Pam and Jane. I see Pam next to him, then Jane, and two employees who are allegedly witnesses. So I looked at the attorney right in the face, and I tell him, look, you know that I did not get notification for this today, and the woman sitting next to you cannot testify otherwise. And with hopes that the legal aid advocate would come into court with me to validate this, he was a no-show, didn't walk in the courtroom with me. And the judge asked me, was I prepared as soon as I walked in? And I was like, look, not really, but I guess so, Nonetheless, they had no evidence at all. So I didn't even need to show up to court that day. What evidence were they bringing? None, right? So I told the judge flat out, like, Pam took control over our mail months ago when this all started, and she did not give me my letter from the court stating the date for my hearing today. But nonetheless, I'm still in front of her on time at the court date. So they put me in a really bad position. But I asked the judge if I could ask Pam straight up, and I asked her. I said, Pam, did you deliver any legal mail to me within the last week or two? And she said she cannot confirm or deny that. So the judge didn't think it was necessary to have any of these alleged witnesses that found a meth pipe or that smelled weed or whatever the case to testify. Instead, they let their attorney speak on behalf of them and lie completely about everything. And nonetheless, I still pointed out to the judge in their own evidence, it was their own exhibits showed proof that they committed perjury. I'm like, do you not see how on Exhibit 5, it's showing that the heating guy smelled weed? Then on Exhibit 7, when they got an attorney, there's no witness. And do you not find it conspicuous that I'm trying to be the one that is getting this alleged heating guy, or the heating guy who allegedly smelled weed, to testify on my behalf? Like, the judge was outright unruly and unprofessional, and I'm working on getting the transcripts, both audio and verbal and written transcripts from the court date that day, because the public needs to hear how inept this judge truly is. In fact, it's a shame that she is in the position that she's in to make these unruly decisions. In fact, I'm going to take a look here. She just got nominated here. This is an article from 2023 where judicial nominee for Hudson wins prize. From Hudson? No, that's where my ex-girlfriend is from. My ex-girlfriend, who is now my ex-girlfriend, because of the fact that this took such a toll on our relationship, all these problems with my eviction and the harassment, that it broke our relationship and our connection. And nonetheless, it says that, police, education, legal colleagues praised the nomination of Amy Manchester of Hudson to become the next judge of Manchester Circuit Court during a public hearing Wednesday. It says the circuit courts no longer have silos of expertise, so all judges must be able to handle cases across all aspects of the law. She said that's the job Amy will excel at. Rice said. That is an absolutely incorrect statement and false statement. This judge is completely incapable of handling any type of cases, let alone eviction cases. Now, this is something that's been a long time coming as far as getting this video done. I've been working on this for over a year, now. And I'm just going to show you, this is the process. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. The actual legal eviction process, in which they did not follow, nor did they follow with Walter. Like I said, this is private residences. Now, because I was camping out behind the library, they put up signs that it was a restricted area. They gave me until November 6th, the morning of. I was told multiple times by the officers, November 6th, the morning of, I need to have my stuff out. The officer down number 44 here showed up on the night before, as I was packing to move, and proceeded to give me a summons to court on the day of Christmas Eve for a camping restricted area, although he knew. I was telling him, look, I have till tomorrow morning, and sure enough, I was out by tomorrow morning, but I still have to go to court on Christmas Eve for that. And I also got a letter handed to me from Pam June 22nd showing that the Nashua Housing Authority has put me back at the bottom of the list of the Section 8. So they really put me in an awful position. I also want to show you this where, first of all, they knew that I was sick prior to moving in. They knew that I had a severe thyroid condition, where they even had a letter from my doctor here. This one's saying that I'm currently homeless. So they knew I was homeless. They knew that I was going to be homeless after they did this to me. For medical reasons, please allow a patient to stay inside the facility during the daytime, 11 to 4 p.m. So I have a severe thyroid condition, and I'm very susceptible to cold weather. However, this is what I want to show you here. I signed my lease on November 4th, 2023. I signed my lease. November 4th, 2023. But also, on that day, I received a message from my mom here, November 4th. Hi, honey. I just thought you might want to know that Meme has terminal thyroid cancer. Patrick, Tana, and Veda are with them now in Rhode Island. I don't know if you wanted to reach out to her. I hope you are doing well. I love you and miss you so very much. So the day that I signed my lease, I found out that the most important person in my life has anaplastic thyroid cancer and has very few breaths left to take. And I was making plans before Christmas to go out and see her when I received this eviction letter telling me I need to be out the week before Christmas. And I pled with Jane Goodman, with my girlfriend, in tears, telling her that they cannot do this to me. I refuse to accept these allegations. They would not show me any meth pipe. They would not give me a drug test. Jane said, I saw the pipe. I smelled your room when I went up there. It was coming out of your door, the smell. I said, look, I can't have this on my conscience when I go see my grandma for the first time in 10 years. I begged her, and she said, Kane, you don't have to tell the truth. It's all right to get to tell her a little lie. She tells me to lie to my dying grandmother about this fraudulent eviction that they did to me. And, I'm not the only one. Like I said, I can tell you, my friend here, Clarissa, my beautiful friend, Clarissa Sanchez, beautiful, talented mother of her son here, Robert, who she lost custody of because of this shelter and the employee's decisions, where she came late back one night with Robert and a couple other families' kids, Kentucky Cheese, and the staff had no problems with the other people staying that night that came late, but her and Robert, they kicked out onto the streets in the wintertime, in the middle of the night, where he had to sleep in an abandoned vehicle with her, and he told her over and over, Mommy, I don't want to live. I don't want to live my life anymore. I want to die. And Clarissa and I would go every day to pick him up from kindergarten and bring him back. And because of this, they were banned for weeks, and he no longer had a safe place for her to have him after school. She lost custody of Robert, and he's now living in Florida. Thank God, with her brother, who is a great man, who I know personally, so I know that he's in good hands. But Clarissa is not doing so well herself. She just got out of the psych ward. 4 months she was in there just recently because of all this, because she lost her purpose and lost her son. And my friend Jan here is another one. I was just over her house today. Jan, a lovely woman, a little bit spacey. She bought my friend Chris a beer one night and didn't see him out before they came into the shelter one night. And as soon as she saw him, just without thinking, she said, "Oh, Chris, I got you a beer." And a staff member saw her with the beer in her hand, handing it to Chris. They banned this woman and Chris for a year from the shelter for that, an unopened year. And Jan is an elderly woman in her 70s and a walker. They put her back out on the streets. They don't care. So, like I said, this is something that is far-reaching. And I just need to get my foot in the door so other people can tell their story as well. This needs to be public news. This needs to be the biggest news story that this city has ever had. This needs to be a transformation for the entire infrastructure of the National Soup Kitchen and Shelter, where people need to be held accountable and charged criminally and removed from positions, and have this built from the top down better and more morally intact, because the things that these people are getting away with and what they do to people on a daily basis would break people's hearts. If the residents of this city knew, they would be freaking horrified. I only have a few minutes left here. I'm at the library, and I have to go back to my tent tonight, where I'm sleeping outside, and it's going to be raining again tonight, where I should be cozying up in my nice warm bed in my apartment. But I've lost that apartment. In fact, I've lost everything in that apartment because they didn't give me the mail from the sheriff's department when they came to finally evict me. So I wasn't there. I got a notice on the door saying I was locked out and couldn't be there for 7 days. And I then had 3 days to move. I packed up by myself with an officer there, and I told them the complete truth about this. They knew everything, knew that I was completely criminal. And I moved all the stuff out to the church next door and put it against the church, because at that point I had no place to bring it. I didn't have the means to store it. I talked to Pastor Kathy, who's the pastor of the Good Shepherd Church that's next door to the shelter. She told me the next day that she was going to be giving me money for a month of storage for my belongings. So my girlfriend and I and my friend proceeded to repack my things and organize stuff that night. We moved it all over to the furthest parking space in the church parking lot that wasn't even viewed with the camera of the shelter. I broke my toe in the midst of this moving, so I was in severe pain, almost passing out, and I went to go ice and elevate my toe. I left my friend with my stuff. It has tarp over it. They had James Whitman and Pam White had their maintenance guy go seek and find my belongings outside in the church parking lot, where they proceeded to call the police on my friend who was watching it, to have him removed, to have the police wrongfully allow this man to put all my belongings in his pickup truck and bring it over to the dumpster at the soup kitchen, where they was proceeded to be locked. And I wasn't able to access any of my belongings, except all my evidence that you see here. I've been working on this for a long time. In fact, I told them, that I had drug tests. Here, they knew that I was sick. This is from January 24th, 2023. Here, Established Care reports that he has long-standing hypothyroidism, has been off of medication for some time, not feeling well due to this history of TSH levels of 150 or higher. So I'm dealing with a severe thyroid issue on top of this, like my grandmother, who's dying from thyroid issues right now. Unspecified thyroid. But here's December 29th. Drug tests, negative. The only thing I was positive for marijuana, but I didn't smoke marijuana in my room. January, negative. Everything's negative except for marijuana, which again, outside of my room. February 2023, positive for THC. I get tested every month at least for my thyroid, because my levels are still not regulated. Here, negative for everything in March. Positive for marijuana, and later that in March. April 19th, negative for everything. Negative for everything there as well. And as you see, I'm still getting testing for my thyroid issues. So I'm going to end it here, but I'm pleading with the members of this community in Nashua and the members of the Nashua Scoop, all 32,000 members, please get behind this. Let this be known to everybody. This needs to be public awareness. This needs to be on the news. I will be reaching out to agencies. I'm going to reach out to WMUR again, who I've spoken to, but I haven't spoken to recently, but I need the support. This is bigger than me. We all need the support. This place needs to be changed. A major transformation, a major consciousness shift needs to occur. I want to thank you for taking the time to hear this. I know it is a little bit long-winded, but I got as much necessary information that I needed to. So I wish you all a good night. I have to go. The library is closing. And thank you again.